Hello, everyone, and happy Tour Tuesday. It's good to see everybody. We were just chit-chatting before I started to record, and we were talking about the Nova Scotia trips that we have coming up. And we have our first Canadian trip since 2019. I think maybe early 2020. Our first Canadian trip just went post COVID, and everybody got across the border. Everybody's having a good time. Super exciting. Jane Peters Estes is our tour director on that one, and we did lots of work behind the scenes to make sure everybody did their Arrive Can app and all of this crazy stuff that we have to do to be able to cross the border and come back. So it all went well, I'll have you know. And we're all ready for our future Canadian trips while they're still making us do all of this crazy stuff. So that's good. And I see, as we were talking about before, Marcel signed up to go to Nova Scotia in August. And Lisa is registered for the North Dakota trip. What is that trip called? Canyon Country, maybe, or I can't remember the name of that trip exactly. And she's going to Biltmore, which is awesome. So you're planning early, Lisa. Good job. Good job. I see lots of tour directors. I'll call your name. Welcome, welcome. I see Betty Barr wave to us. There she is. I saw her live and in person today. I see Martha Costa. Martha's getting ready to go to Savannah next weekend. I see Christine Durling. There she is. Do I see any other tour directors? Evie, I saw Evie. Evie Simon, there she is. She's waving. So it's good to have so many tour directors with us today, and good to have so many of you. We are here today to talk about two fabulous trips. Branson, Missouri, featuring St. Louis, a city that I lived in and I love. So I'd love to talk to you about it. And then our Starr 75th birthday bash in Louisville, Kentucky. So we're really excited to talk to you about those trips. By the way, I am Sandy Borowski. Don't know if I still need to introduce myself, but for those of you who are here the first time or might be watching the recording, I am Vice President of Tours and third generation owner of Starr Tours, and pleased to be here with you. I am your host tonight for Tour Tuesday. By the way, I know that Deb Ayers will be joining us shortly, so we'll look for her. And we have a new travel advisor in the office, and she may be joining us today as well. And her name is Lindy Rivera. So we're super excited for this today. So without further ado, I am going to show you what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be talking about, like I said, Branson and Starr's 75th birthday bash. We have a very special guest with us today. His name is Mark Miller, and you can read a little bit about him here. Actually, let me just stop sharing that and share it again because it wasn't a good view from me. Mark, see, some of us came out of the pandemic a little weaker. Some of us came out a little stronger. Mark, let's say, came out so strong, he started his own business during the pandemic. So Mark started Carry On Travel and Tours. And, I can tell you that the words carry on, right, are very poignant because we were carrying on through COVID, weren't we, Mark?
That's part of where the name came from, yes.
So Mark started his own company during COVID, and I will let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about him, and you can also read here.
Yes, Mark Miller, glad to be here. It's been in the travel business in one form or fashion since 1994, right out of college. Have been planning tours for the last about 21 years now. So actually 22 years now, since about 2000. So anyway, yes, I had the opportunity to go to work for myself and I said we're carrying on as the name kind of indicates, but it's also just fitting for what people wanted to do during COVID, and also just to get on with our lives after everything that people did deal with COVID in 2020. So anyway, we had a very successful uh, following of folks that I've been working at for the last 20 years or so have been very supportive of me and my ventures of being self-employed now. And thanks Sandy and Starr Tours for keeping that tradition with me going. Like I said, I've got some very deep-seated relationships that I've built over the years in this business, and Starr is one of them. So I'm glad to be here to be able to talk about a couple tours that I've got put together for them.
Awesome. Yep. As Mark said, I need to see. Okay. As Mark said, we worked together for a very long time. And he had the opportunity to carry on travel and tours as his own business. We jumped up and said, we'll work with you because we really value partners like Mark. And you've met other what we call receptive tour operators before on these calls. You've met Elaine and Nancy from Maine. Elaine is from Brilliant Adventures. Nancy does all of our main programs, and Mark does our program in Branson, and he's done some other programs for us, including a special birthday bash that Mark did in Branson before. So it was only fitting that we asked Mark to help plan our 75th birthday bash, which he did, and he did well. So this is his second birthday bash for Starr. So I know it's going to be great. And we'll start with, we'll save the best for last. Well, you can argue that both of these tours are great, but we'll start with Branson, including St. Louis. With shows. This trip departs on September 10th. It is an 8-day, 7-night trip. It is priced under $2,000 for 2 people in a room, and it includes 11 meals. So because St. Louis is far away, as you all know, we stop in Ohio on the way to St. Louis. So we'll stop in Cambridge, Ohio. And then on our second day, we arrive in the St. Louis area. We arrive actually to St. Charles, Missouri. And that's when Mark and his team take over. So Mark, why don't you talk to us? Why don't you take over and talk to us about the itinerary starting with day 2?
Okay. Yeah, no, once you get into St. Charles that evening, which is a beautiful little historic city on the Mississippi River or the Missouri River, there on the west side of St. Louis, you stay at the Meristar Hotel and Casino, which is one of the newest hotel and casinos to have been built in the St. Louis area. Anyway, you'll arrive there one night. It's an all-suite property, so the rooms are just phenomenal at this hotel. And like I said, of all the casinos, the half dozen or so in the St. Louis area, this is probably one of the more upscale properties there. Anyway, you'll have your, once you get in there, you'll have that evening. You will have an option for dinner at one of a couple of restaurants that you'll receive vouchers for. To eat, and then you will have time to just enjoy the property, gamble, whatever you want to do that evening. And the next morning, you also have vouchers to have breakfast at the restaurant before you depart to start making your way towards Branson. So, but it's a beautiful sitting. St. Charles is a wonderful little historic town, and like I said, you're kind of sitting just outside the heart of downtown St. Charles, where the Meristar is at. So, very fitting for a great first night. Plus, it's on the west side of St. Louis to keep you out of all the St. Louis traffic as you make your way into Branson the next day.
Excellent.
Once you hit the road from St. Louis, it's about a 210-mile drive from the west side of St. Louis, where you're going to stop just about 45 minutes to 50 minutes outside of Branson. You're going to have lunch at this wonderful, unique place. It's been around since really the late 1970s in Ozark, Missouri, a place called Lambert's Cafe. It's called the home of the throwed rolls. You guys will be kind of a late lunch, probably around 1:30 or 2 o'clock that afternoon with your rest breaks en route. Get in there, you'll have your it's kind of an open menu type restaurant the way they do it for groups, and so you get be able to pick one of probably 20 different entrees at Lambert's. Now, the uniqueness of this restaurant is the fact this was the second Lambert's Cafe that was built. The first one was built down in what they call the Boot Hill of Missouri in Sikeston, Missouri. And as legend has it, the original owner of that, he was the cook and was very frustrated with staff one day. And they always prepared their homemade dinner rolls and, to go with their meals in this little small cafe down in Sikeston, Missouri. Anyway, kept asking for the servers kept asking for rolls. He got frustrated, started throwing the rolls, and the customer saw it, and that at least if you're going to throw them, throw some our way so we can eat them. So anyway, hence the name, the home of the throwed rolls began. It became a tradition that's carried on since the late 1960s through today at Lambert's Cafe. It's a lot of food. They are known for their portions. I know a lot of people do not like to hear that, but it is a lot of food. That's why it's kind of a late lunch or early dinner, so to speak. And you may want to take some of your leftovers with you as you leave Lambert's and make your way towards Branson, because you specifically have dinner on your own that evening, because you're not going to want to eat a lot for dinner after eating at Lambert's. Because not only do they have the rolls that they give you or throw you at the restaurant, they also have what's called their pass-arounds that come with the entrees. They bring around some southern specialties like black-eyed peas, macaroni and tomato, fried potatoes, fried okra. Like I said, that's all in conjunction with whatever entree you order. So there's a lot of food. So like I said, you can get a doggy bag or to-go box and take some of that with you to keep at the Radisson if you want to eat later that evening, or before you go to your show that evening there in Branson. So anyway, it's a wonderful place. It's a novelty restaurant. People really enjoy it. It's an incredibly popular restaurant. Hundreds of thousands of people go through that restaurant every year here. So anyway, you'll make about a 45, 50-minute drive from Lambert's on to Branson, where you'll check into the Radisson Hotel, which is a full-service hotel, one of the nicest hotels located right in the heart of Branson, right on Highway 76, which is where the main theater district's at. You'll be in there for the next 3 nights. After being in there for a couple of hours, and like I said, if you have some of those Lambert's leftovers, you can eat on those. There's a couple little other eateries that are close within a block or so of that restaurant as well. There's a Panera Bread Company. There is a Dairy Queen up the street about a half a block, which also makes for fun if you come back from the show and want to go have ice cream. So anyway, once you go to the show that night, you're going to be going to the first show first show on the Strip, the first theater that was actually built on Highway 76, or Country Music Boulevard in Branson, Missouri. Built in 1967, this family has been very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Very consistent with their show quality and entertainment and comedy. And it's kind of the entertainment that Branson was built on as Branson started booming with theaters in the early 1990s and through early 2000. It's just, they've been very adamant about keeping that show consistency and quality with their Ozark humor and their just the variety of entertainers and music that you will get in that show. So anyway, you'll see that wonderful show as your first show, which is always a great show to start off with as a first show in Branson. After the show, you'll be back at the hotel. They have a buffet that you'll get, and you should also have vouchers for those for all 3 mornings that you're there at the Radisson. So anyway, you have that breakfast buffet at your leisure each morning before you depart for your other activities. That day, you're going to have a little bit of free time to go explore Branson Landing and possibly the downtown Branson area. They're kind of two in the same. One's the old part of downtown. The Branson Landing is the new part of downtown. It was a complex, $500 million complex, most expensive project to ever happen in Branson back in 2009 when it finally opened. There's all kinds of shops, stores, restaurants. You will have lunch on your own that day. while you're down there. You'll probably be down there at about 1 o'clock that afternoon. They have a massive big water fountain show that they have there that was designed by the same waterworks company that designed the water show at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. So anyway, it's not near as big as the Bellagio's in Las Vegas, but it's a impressive little show, water show that they have there. That goes about every half hour. That hopefully you'll be able to see that while you're down there as well. There's anchor stores there. One is a Belk's department store. The other anchor store is one of the Bass Pro Shops that southwestern Missouri is kind of known for. And anyway, the whole lot of shops and restaurants and stores in between. Anyway, after that, you will be heading to your first show of that day, or your second show on this tour. This is a very high energy. It's just they perform and sing almost 100 or do parts of at least, it's like 110 or 120 shows during the course of this show at the #1 hits of the 60s. The gentleman and his wife that owned this show, they bought this show in 2006 from the original people that started it. And he was the musical director for the Lennon Sisters, if you remember the Lennon Sisters. He moved with them from California in 1995 when they built the Welk Champagne Theater, and was with them until the Welk show ceased to exist. And him and his wife bought this show and put a whole lot of new energy and songs and production material and costumes. They do something like 20 different costume changes. And I said, sing a whole lot of music from not only the 60s, but even the 50s and some 70s as well. But it's a very, very high energy show that you're almost tired when you come out of it from all the activity and excitement that happens during that show. So anyway, 2-hour show. Most of the shows are about 2-hour shows in Branson. After that, you'll have time to go back to the hotel for an hour and a half or so, relax, hang out. The Radisson Hotel where you're staying from 4 to usually 11 or midnight. They also have a what's called the Timeouts Sports Bar and Lounge that will be on if you want to go downstairs and have a drink, socialize with your fellow travelers. Anyway, have time about an hour and a half there at the hotel before you head off to your next dinner and show. The Grand Country Buffet is personally one of the only buffets that I use in the Branson area. It's a very high quality buffet. It's managed very well, very clean, and it's also attached to a theater complex called the Grand Country Music Hall. So after you're done eating at that Grand Country Buffet, and they have, I don't know, they probably have 50 or 60 different items to choose from to eat, as well as just a massive salad bar spread at that buffet. You're at the same complex, so you don't have to get on the motor coach to leave to go anywhere. You're going to walk right next door to the theater, where you'll be seated as a group into the Grand Jubilee show. This Grand Jubilee show, it's a very quaint little theater of about 450 seats that has a very high energy cast. And here they have a wonderful comedian. You get a lot of just high quality talent in this show. Again, beautiful costume, Western, big country, but they also do some gospel, some patriotic, a lot of comedy integrated into this show as well. So it's a wonderful show for about a 2-hour show before you head back to your hotel for the evening. So next day, again, you're going to have breakfast whenever you want to.
I forgot to show this lovely slide of.
Oh, it's okay. You can leave it there for a minute. Like I said, it's just some of the highlights. Like I said, it's about, I think there's 6 different band members, and they have about, I don't know, 8 or 9, maybe even 10 different featured performers in that Grand Jubilee show there.
And there's comedy as well, right?
There's a lot of comedy, yes, a lot of comedy in that show. And some audience participation as well. So anyway, not pulling a lot of people on stage, but they get y'all to interact with, and that's a lot of what Branson is known for, is that most of the shows interact with the audience to make you feel like you're part of the show. One of the unique things about Branson is just creating that homey feeling of, in these theaters where people you almost feel like you know these entertainers when you come out of the shows. So that's what Branson Entertainment's kind of been built on. So Anyway, next morning you're going to have breakfast at the hotel. Then you're going to depart for this wonderful museum that's been here for, I think it's about 15 years now, 2006, 2007, the Titanic Museum. This is a half-scale replica of the original Titanic. The gentleman and his wife that own this facility, he was actually an oceanographer, and he was the second person, or he had the second team that actually dove after they had discovered the Titanic in 1985. He did the second dive where they actually started recovering artifacts from the Titanic. Him and his wife made it a hobby to basically start acquiring some of that stuff. And in the mid 2000s, they opened up this facility. They do the tours for motor coach groups as a guided tour. So you will be getting a guided tour by one of the staff members of the museum attraction that will spend a lot of time hitting a lot of highlights and giving you a lot of the specific history to a lot of the items that are in the Titanic and that they bring in. They have some rotating exhibits that they move in and out every several years, and between their other Titanic museum that they built about 10 or 11 years ago out in East Tennessee. Anyway, it's very unique. You are given a passport once you get there and arrive with a name. And once you get through the tour towards the end of the facility, you find out if you were a survivor that lived or survived. And your passport talks about the history of that person on the Titanic ship. Anyway, it's a very unique experience for you to enjoy. And the guided tour gives you so much additional information on some of the unique exhibits that they have that you would not normally see or know about otherwise. So that's about a 2-hour tour from beginning to end. You're also going, after that, you're going to head back to downtown Branson and have some time down there again between either the old downtown Branson or the Branson Landing. Like I said, they're right together, so you can take your time and walk between the two. Something there at the Branson Landing the day before you didn't get to go to, or vice versa. You can hit them both while you're there. So, like I said, a lot of eateries and a lot of little shops and stores. Just one of the more unique areas and places for people to go to while they're in Branson. So, a lot of specialty shops and stores in the downtown Branson area, as well as a store that's almost an attraction in itself. It's called Dick's Five and Dime. They just celebrated I think it was their 53rd, 54th year in business. And it is chock full of so many things that you do not find in regular stores anymore. They have old games. They have, remember paper dolls. They have paper dolls. I used to always make it a point to go get my kids something from Dick's Five and Dime for either birthdays or Christmas, because they have a lot of stuff that you will not find at any toy store or Target or any other department store anymore. It's kind of the old time toys and stuff. Anyway, it's almost attraction in itself to go through when you're in downtown Branson. So remember that as you get there. Look for Dick's Five and Dime, because it's well worth taking a trip through. So anyway, after that, you'll be downtown for a couple hours, and you're going to make your way back out into the woods of the Ozarks. This is a place that's actually existed since around 1991. It is operated as a nonprofit entity for a gentleman by the name of Johnny Morris, who is the man who was born and raised in this area, just in Springfield, Missouri. He is the man who owns the Bass Pro Shops and also now owns all of the Cabela's. Johnny Morris is very adamant and passionate about nature and conservation. He started acquiring land in the early 1990s. And has continued to buy land and has developed this beautiful paved 3.5-mile loop that you will be going on out of this Dogwood Canyon Nature Park. Words and pictures don't do it justice until you're there. This is about a 2-hour guided tram tour. You'll be pulled, it'll be narrated. The streams, the waterfall, they built a grist mill there at one of the waterfalls that comes down into Dogwood Canyon. This is now, with the land that he's acquired, it's an 11,000 acre nature preserve. And it is you will see wildlife. You will see deer, you will see elk, you will see buffalo, you will see longhorn steers, as well as just the rest of nature. But it's a beautiful, beautiful facility. You guys will go through that tour there, and then on your way back, uh, once you kind of made your circuit, actually go into Arkansas. If you've never been to Arkansas before, you will actually cross over into Arkansas for about 20 minutes on this tram tour, and you will make your way back to what's called the pavilion, or the canyon pavilion, where you will be having kind of a cookout dinner. That's what they call their smokehouse barbecue dinner at the canyon pavilion there. It's a covered facility. That way, rain or shine, they can always do this. And after that, you will be headed back make your way back towards the front entrance, which this is something Sandy's probably not even aware of, but I'll tell anybody. You get a bonus on this thing. They started including a $10 gift card in
That's
the
new.
admission. Yes, like I said, I don't even know if you knew about that from the time we'd set this up, Sandy. But anyway, everybody will receive a $10 gift card to use, uh, whether you want to buy, souvenirs or whatever, back at the main entrance, which is where the gift shop and where you can walk through the old mill and see some of the artifacts that they have in there as well. So anyway, a little bit of a bonus that you'll get with that $10 gift card at Dogwood Canyon.
I remember they had a great gift shop. So
Yeah,
that
they
$10
do. It's and like I said, it's the Dogwood Canyon. I've been adamantly booking and pushing this thing for the better part of probably close to 15 years, and words and pictures do not do it justice. It is hard to explain the beauty and the scenery of this place without physically going there and being part of it on that tram tour and seeing it for yourself. After you are done at the Dogwood Canyon, you will have about a 45-minute ride back into Branson, where you will be seeing Clay Cooper's Country Music Express show. Again, another wonderful high energy show. Clay Cooper moved to Branson in 1986 from Texas, uh, performing with some other guys while they were still in high school. Clay has made a name for himself by performing not only in his own show, but he was the host and MC of another very popular show for many, many years. And after that, the entertainment group that he worked for started downsizing. He decided to venture out on his own to keep the quality of the show that he had been part of for so many years, maintain that with his own show. So he's been around since about 2006 now in his own theater with his own show. And him and his wife own this theater. His wife produces and does all the choreography. Have a very large cast. They have about 30 people in this cast. A lot going on. Again, keeping with the tradition of a lot of the variety shows in Branson, there's a lot of comedy in this show. There is a lot of country. There's a little bit of rock and roll. There's a little bit of gospel. And he integrates his family into a lot of aspects of the show because it is a family show, even though there's all these other cast members as well, all the singers and dancers and musicians. Anyway, and then after that show's over this evening, you can stay seated and you will get a private meet and greet with the cast after the show, which will be fun. You can ask questions to some of them, and they'll tell you about their history, and you get a little bit of a behind the scenes with some of the performers that a lot of folks don't normally get. So after that, and that's about a 2.5 hour show. After that, you will be headed back to your hotel to get your good night's sleep, and hopefully you've eaten those Lambert leftovers by then, because you're now on your way back to St. Louis. Now you're staying right in the heart of downtown St. Louis at one of the flagship properties for the Drury Hotel Company. It's called the Drury Plaza Hotel, and it sits right next to the Gateway Arch in downtown St. Louis. Not only will you be staying at that wonderful hotel property, which is the converted Fur and Mercantile Exchange building in downtown St. Louis, but you will also be going to the Gateway Arch that afternoon as you arrive into St. Louis. You will take what's called the tram ride to the top. You'll have a scheduled time to ride up to the top of the 711 feet Top of the arch, where they have windows where you can peer out on both sides of the Mississippi River. Now, even since 2019, when Starr did their birthday bash tour in Branson, the St. Louis Arch opened up their new. There was about a 3-year project where they completely did all of the grounds around the St. Louis Arch, and that just opened up officially last year. Their new visitor center, the museum. The view from the arch is still the view from the arch, but it's a whole brand new entry and visitor center area, which is quite impressive to see the way they've redone it all. And anyway, you'll be there about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and literally it's right next door to the hotel. You can walk back to the hotel. One of the other wonderful, unique things of the Drury hotels that they are known for is called their manager's reception that they have every evening from 5:30 to 7. And when you check in and get your room keys, you'll have a card that will entitle you to free drinks and all of the snack slash food items that they have out there during that manager's reception each evening. So, and it is, you can truly make a meal out of it if you want to. If you do not want to make a meal out of it, there are other restaurants within several blocks of the St. Louis Arch and the Drury Plaza where you can walk through that evening for dinner on your own. Anyway, you will be at that point having breakfast with a wonderful buffet before you start making your way back to Ohio.
And that's when we take back over. Mark's done. When we leave St. Louis, he waves goodbye, and that's when we take back over, and we'll spend our last night in Cambridge, Ohio. And then we actually have a highlight on day 8 that's super exciting. We visit the Flight 93 Memorial Visitor Center. And this is a complex that is very, very special and poignant because I know we all lived through what happened on September 11th, 2001. And they have done a great job putting together a large amount of artifacts and information, videos, stories, and they're all on display. And you can see the location where Flight 93 crashed. So that's something that's very special. We're pleased to be able to add that into the itinerary before you arrive home on our 8th day. So that is our Branson trip. A wonderful, wonderful trip. I'm sure I'm going to make an educated guess that some of you on this call have been to Branson. Maybe you've joined us on our birthday bash from 2019, and you're here today to hear about our Kentucky birthday bash. So we did a tour very, very similar to this, and lots of these shows are absolutely fantastic. But I know that Christine, who was with me on that trip, will certainly agree that Dogwood Canyon was a very special spot, right? Oh, you can unmute yourself. She's giving it 2 thumbs up, but just in case you can't see.
I was just thinking, I had met Mark when we were out there, and it's good to see you again, Mark. But with all the shows and the Titanic Museum, the food, Lambert's, the one thing that stuck out for me, especially because I love nature, and it was Dogwood Canyon. I'd never seen a place like this before, and just the facilities, the log cabin, in keeping with the Bass tradition, or Cabela's, where it's massive and big logs and big spaces, and it's just absolutely wonderful. I would just go there, just to Dogwood Canyon, and just spend the whole week. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm so glad to hear, Sandy, that you're adding on the Flight 93 tour, because so many people, so many of our customers have asked for that. And to be able to do that as on the way home, I mean, it's just the icing on the cake for this tour. So I hope a lot of people sign up, because Branson is home. And one other thing I will say that really struck me about Branson, Missouri, is the patriotism. You see the patriotism on every street corner. in that town with the different monuments and memorials and allegiance to either our fallen soldiers or just the dedication of our soldiers. And every show applauds our service people, both past and present. So, I mean, really, it's a red, white, and blue tour. Excellent, excellent tour.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Our tour director for that trip is joining us. She's on this call. Martha, you can wave. Martha will be taking you on this well-planned trip that that the Starr office and Mark have planned for us. So anybody else that has been on this trip that wants to add a little color or flavor, or anybody that's thinking about it, do you have any questions before we move on to the next trip?
Can I add something, Sandy?
Of course.
Okay, yeah, just for people who have been to Branson before, one of the things too, if you've been on one of Starr's tours in the past, which you usually do a Branson tour every year. I just happened to do your birthday bash back in 2019 there. A lot of the shows, from whether it's every year or every other year, even if you've been to Branson or seen some of their shows, most of those shows change a lot. Most of the songs, music, some of the comedy in their show every year to 2 years. So even if you've been to some of them before and are thinking about that, you're going to see a lot of new stuff because most of that stuff does change every year. So just
that's a great point. That's a great
tidbit. If you've been to Branson before, like I said, you will see it again. Like Clay Cooper's show, they're very structured every year that they probably at least put 50 to 60% of new material into their shows. So, and most of the shows in Branson do that.
Very, very good point. And speaking of Clay Cooper, that when he gets to do a meet and greet after the show, it's just really special to be able to see him and his wife up close and get to talk to them and ask questions about the show. And it's just a really special thing that they do. So, all right. Well, I won't delay. We are going to talk about our 75th birthday bash. We've been celebrating for a month or so already, our 75th year. And we have 35 people booked so far on our Kentucky birthday bash, and we're hoping to get at least another 35 or even 50. It's not until October. It's October 22nd, which is mid-fall, great time of year to visit this area. It's a 6-day trip. The price is under $2,000 per person and includes 9 meals. You'll be seeing me there because I'll be making a special appearance. Similar to lots of other tours, it takes a little time to get there. So we'll spend our first night in Columbus. Of course, we love Drury Inn and Suites. So whenever we're in an area that has a Drury, we like to do their manager's cocktail party, or as we like to call it, their kickback. So you can do that for dinner, or you can do dinner on your own somewhere near the hotel on our first day. On our second day, we're going to arrive in Lexington, and that's when Mark's team takes over.
Yeah. Also on that Drury Inn that you're staying at your first night in Columbus, it's in the Polaris location. That's also one of the newest Drury properties in their collection. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
It's a very new Drury. So I think it's only been open about maybe 4 or 5 months at this point. So
wow.
A new Drury location. So yes. So anyway, yeah, once you depart Columbus that evening, you're going to start making your way to Lexington, Kentucky. You're going to hear a lot of horse information here in the next little bit because horses and bourbon is what Kentucky's kind of known for. So anyway, you're going to go to what's called the Kentucky Horse Park, which they have a little eatery cafeteria there where you'll be having lunch on your own, probably as soon as you get there, because it's about a 3.5 hour drive with a rest stop to get into Lexington from Columbus, Ohio. And once you're there at the Kentucky Horse Park, they have a whole slew of museums and exhibits, and there will be a little bit, once we get closer in, there will be a little more of an itinerary or agenda of things you can do once you get out there. One of the things they have is called the Parade of Breeds, which is in one of the little small arenas that they have there, where they show and exhibit several of the different horse breeds and varieties of horses. And so you can kind of see I grew up on in a rural farming community, but we had cows and not horses. So, like I said, I always like to go through that and enjoy that because I learn something a little more about horses every time I'm there. But anyway, you'll get to see that parade of breeds, which you learn about some of those horses. You have a couple of hours there to take in that whole facility and grounds before you depart there and start making your way to your hotel for the next 3 nights in Louisville. This is called the Radisson Hotel Louisville North, which is actually just over the river in Clarksville, Indiana. The Ohio River separates basically Clarksville, Indiana, and downtown Louisville. So you're going to be there, and we needed, with this being a birthday bash, we needed a good-sized hotel uh, with some banquet space to do some of the things that we're going to be doing on this tour. So that's why we're staying at this full-service Radisson there as well. Anyway, after you get checked into that hotel for the next 3 nights and your luggage is delivered to your rooms, you're going to board one of uh, the even though it's a couple decades old, it's actually the newest riverboat to be cruising downtown Louisville and Clarksville, Indiana. It's called Mary Miller Riverboat, and she was actually the wife of the first riverboat captain in that sailed the Ohio River there in downtown Louisville. So anyway, that's where that name comes from. It's the smaller of the two boats that are there. They have the Belle of Louisville, and it has kind of been not used a whole lot the last few years for various reasons. But anyway, you're going to be on this Mary Miller Riverboat where you will have dinner and kind of a little bit of a narrated guided excursion that evening along the river and have a good meal on board. And like I said, about 9:30, you'll probably end up back on the coach to be going to your hotel for the next 3 nights. You'll have a buffet again each of your 3 mornings at this Radisson. The next event, you'll leave the hotel and you're going to take off to Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby Museum. This will be a guided tour of Churchill Downs where they take you through some of the stable areas and some of the grandstand area where all the seats and stuff are at, where you can see, and they tell you about all the different levels of seating and who sits where, and this is the owner's boxes and all of the good stuff you will want to know about Churchill Downs and the history of Churchill Downs. And the Derby Museum is situated right next to Churchill Downs, and you will walk over into the Derby Museum and they'll kind of give you a few highlights of some of the things that are inside this wonderful museum of all this history of all these Kentucky Derby winners and horses who have been part of Churchill Downs and the breeders who have had these winning horses and race horses at Churchill Downs over the years. I forget what year, I could do the math, but I think it's like they just had it's always the first Saturday of May every year. And I think they just did, was it the 122nd Kentucky Derby here about a month or so ago. Anyway, 1875 was the first Kentucky Derby, and it's happened that same week ever since, the first Saturday of May. Anyway, they have a very unique, where you feel like you're actually sitting in the middle of a racetrack. It's a 360-degree theater experience that you'll sit in, where the screen literally goes around you like the oval of the Kentucky Derby racetrack. Very unique experience to see and do that. You'll have time on your own to look at some of the exhibits from, one of the most prize-winning horses ever, Secretariat, to several other winning horses and learn their history and what happens to these horses after they're done racing. And anyway, we have a couple hours to go through that museum before you head into downtown Louisville. They have this area called 4th Street Live, which is where you'll be going. This was an area that was kind of revitalized about 10 years or so ago with the city and the Louisville Convention of Visitors Bureau to try to create a newer, more modern area of downtown Louisville. And there was tons of restaurants that were put in here, some different breweries and distilleries who have put little satellite locations up around 4th Street Live. Anyway, you'll have and there's shops and stores where you'll have time to Get you some souvenirs if you want to from Louisville, or like I said, just sit and relax and have a local brew or have a local drink or a local meal for your lunch that afternoon. From there, you're going to go to the Louisville Slugger Museum, and yes, this is where they make the bats, and you'll see the world's largest baseball bat once you get there. You will see the tour of the facility where they make these bats, and then you will also receive your own little miniature bat as a souvenir when you're done touring the Louisville Slugger Museum. The tour is not real long, about an hour and 15 minutes or 75 minutes is about what that tour takes. And like I say, learn all about the history of the famous Louisville Slugger bat that so many people have used, baseball players have used, and still even used today. So after that, you will have dinner on your own that night, either in downtown Louisville or there is also a restaurant at the hotel. If you don't want to eat in downtown, like I said, and that timing will be laid out later on the final itinerary, depending on how many people we end up on this birthday bash for Starr, because we'll have to stagger some of the times with multiple coaches as to who's going where, so everybody's not on top of each other. Anyway, next morning, this is a very unique day. You're going to go over to Barge Town, Kentucky. You'll have a local guide who will get on there and be with you for probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours to take you through some of the historic areas and give you some of the history of Barge Town, Kentucky. Barge Town is known as the actual bourbon capital of Kentucky because this is where most of the distilleries are located, in this little town, which is about halfway between Louisville and Lexington. Now you will be touring one of the distilleries, but not in Barge Town. You're actually going to do that back in Louisville the next day. I think. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, Sandy. Oh no, I'm sorry. I missed the whole distillery on day 3.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yes, I knew it was in there too. You're right.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. Anyway, yes, before you go, sorry, we're backing up, folks. Before you go to the Louisville Slugger Museum, you're going to go to one of the distilleries that has a new modern tasting facility. It's one of the oldest distilleries in Kentucky, Evan Williams. You're going to be getting a tour and a tasting of some of the different varieties of bourbon, if you so choose to partake of those. They teach you about the distilling process and what creates the variation between what is a bourbon and what is actually a whiskey, and those distilled processes. Anyway, you will be having that before you go to the Louisville Slugger Museum. So don't sample too much, because you need to be able to go through the Louisville Slugger Museum and not get your baseball bat and start beating on your travel partner for fun because you've had too much bourbon from your stop before. So
note to self.
Yes. Anyway, yes, next day, now we're going to Barge Town, which is the bourbon capital. There are numerous little distilleries strewn about the countryside, which most of them you've got to know where you're going to find some of these places that were built back in the hills and hollers of Kentucky. But you're going to find out why this little town became the bourbon capital. And before it was even a bourbon capital, it was a very popular stop for most stagecoaches traveling through between the east and southern United States. And you're going to get to have lunch at one of those places, which I'll tell you a little bit more about here in just a moment, Talbot Tavern. But before that, like I said, you're going to learn about the history of a lot of these buildings, what they were, who owned them, famous folks from Kentucky and other regions of the country that not only owned but visited these places over the course of the last couple hundred years. You're going to make a stop at what's called Federal Hill, or My Old Kentucky Home, which was named after the song that Stephen Foster wrote when he had traveled there back in the late 1800s. Stephen Foster was the man who wrote My Old Kentucky Home and Oh Susanna and a lot of these other older songs from the late 1890s. He liked to create music about the places that he visited Anyway, he had made a trip to Kentucky in the late 1890s, and this place where he stayed, which was called Federal Hill, ended up being renamed My Old Kentucky Home after Stephen Foster wrote that song. You're going to listen or hear about the history of Federal Hill and My Old Kentucky Home, and Stephen Foster's part of that, which is now, of course, the Kentucky State Song, and has been for a century or many, many decades. Anyway, you will have your time to wander around the historic district after lunch. But going back to where we're going to be having lunch at, this old Talbot Tavern, Old Talbot Tavern. This is, they say, part of the longest continuing business that's been open in the United States. I believe it was 1779 when this first was opened and built, and it was opened as a stop for people to be able to not only get something to eat, but for them to stay. Again, all these stagecoaches that were traveling from the east to the south or vice versa. This was one of the most popular routes for those stagecoaches to travel. And that's where Old Talbot Tavern got its notoriety of all the people who traveled through there and stayed there in this town. It is a very old facility with these huge timbers that it was built with, on the National Register of Historic Places. Anyway, you're going to get to have lunch there. You'll have a choice of 2 or 3 different options you could pick from to eat that day when you get to have lunch in the Old Talbot Tavern. Like I said, it's a vital part of Kentucky history right there that you get to eat in. And like I said, it's just right up from downtown where you'll have time to enjoy some time and hit some of the little local shops and stores while you're there. From there, you're going to return to the hotel. And this is where some of the anniversary stuff begins, or birthday bash stuff begins. This is and brainstorming with Sandy and Starr about what we should do and coming up with some of these unique little events that make the birthday badges on their own. Late that afternoon, you're going to make your way into the ballroom of the Radisson at the Radisson Hotel. And you guys, men and women, you will get to create your own derby hat. There are some people there who will help you custom create your own derby hat that will be another souvenir for you to take home from this awesome tour for Starr's birthday bash. Once everybody's got their hats made, they're going to have kind of a big buffet set out with several different barbecue items, like Kentucky's known for is their barbecue and bluegrass, and you are going to eat till your heart's content, and then about an hour or so after dinner, there's going to be this, of course, Sandy doesn't know this either, but we have this band who's going to be coming in. It's a bluegrass band called the Bourbon Revival Band. Of course, a bluegrass band also has to have their name Bourbon.
We are
so, yeah.
staying on theme.
So anyway, this is a very unique band that's been contracted to play for about an hour and a half or so, 90 minutes or so for you folks this evening. And the unique thing about this, I know people are thinking, bluegrass music, really? Let me tell you about this band, okay? And in the last decade or so, and I follow a lot of music because my original degree was actually in music business and sound technology. So I have a big appreciation for a lot of different styles of music. Anyway, this bluegrass, the Bourbon Revival Band, this band that's been hired to perform for you folks, they will sing probably not only just bluegrass music, but they're going to make bluegrass sound like you've never heard bluegrass sound before, because they're going to sing rock songs with a bluegrass flair. They're going to sing regular country songs with a bluegrass flair. They're going to sing a whole variety of music with a bluegrass flair that you didn't even know could be sang in a bluegrass style. They're a very audience interactive group. So like I said, they'll be feeding off you folks too that are on this tour for energy and for their performance you're going to get that evening. It's a very fun little band and event that you're going to have that evening there as part of the birthday badge celebration for Starr. After that, you're going to attend. This has been going on for about, I think, 10 or 11 years now that the city of Louisville started in conjunction with some artists and carvers. You're going to go to Iroquois Park by coach that evening around 7:30. This is where there are over 5,000 carved jack-o'-lanterns that are all lit up and displayed throughout this park. That sounds like a lot of pumpkins. It is. It's not a very, Iroquois Park is a big park, but these are all set up in about a quarter-mile loop at Iroquois Park so that everybody can take their time, walk through these, uh, and see the different unique carvings and faces and pictures that have been engraved into all these different jack-o'-lanterns that will be on display for you folks to see. Like I said, it's a very, it'll be a highlight of this trip to be able to see that jack-o'-lantern spectacular and all those illuminated pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns out there. Mary, you're going to head back to the hotel for the evening. Get up the next morning. You're going to be checking out after you've had breakfast, and you're going to go over towards Lexington, Kentucky. You will be also having a local guide on each of the coaches that will take you to several different areas. You will get to go to a private horse farm. You will get to go to the Keyland Racetrack and be toured through the Keyland Racetrack, which is one of the more modern facilities, even though it's been there for many decades. Keyland Racetrack is just this fabulously landscaped and sculptured facility where they do pretty much daily races in one form or another. You never know what's going to be going on out there from day to day. Sometimes they will actually have horse auctions that you maybe see or get to see one of those auctions going on. Anyway, you'll get to tour that facility kind of behind the scenes where the betting all takes places, where you can you'll probably even have some time to possibly bet on a race if there's a race going on that morning. You're going to tour through bluegrass country. You're going to end up at a little place they call the Old Friends Retirement Farm, which is where a lot of the retired thoroughbred horses who have ran many races over their careers end up, to where they are there with a bunch of their running friends, so to speak, at this retirement farm. Hear the history of some of those four horses, which ones have run or won different races. And from there, you're going to be, we're going to have lunch at a local restaurant. And from there, you will be on your way back to Columbus, Ohio to spend a night at the Drury Inn and Suites again, where they will have the manager's reception and cocktails and all that stuff that you get for staying at the Drury Inn and Suites. From there, and again, there's enough food at those facilities where you can make a meal out of it if you want to. There are several other restaurants within walking distance if you do want to eat at a restaurant as well. Next morning, you're having their breakfast buffet at the Drury Inn, and then you're on your way on the coach back home to New Jersey.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. After having a fabulous trip to Kentucky, that was a great overview of that trip. And I've done I had done the whole Branson trip before, and this trip I have done at least 75% of it. And there's a few things that I haven't been able to see, but Mark was right. Keyland is very special. Seeing Churchill Downs close up, is just super cool. The Louisville Slugger Museum has lots of Americana, as well as, baseball history. 4th Street Live has just lots of fun shops and these mini distilleries and restaurants, etc. So just a fabulous trip. Does anybody have any questions for Mark on this trip, the Kentucky Birthday Bash trip, or the Branson trip, if you thought of something since we finished that one up? Great. This trip is going to be escorted. The Kentucky trip is going to be escorted by Karen Coate and Angie Belmont, and I will be seeing you folks as well at some point for a few days during that trip. So I'm looking forward to it. So I want to say thank you so much to Mark. We appreciate all the time and effort that you put into planning these trips, putting them together, and then of course being with here tonight to share all that you know about them. It's really great to have partners like you, and we are so thankful that you made it through the pandemic. You're carrying on, and better than ever. So I really appreciate that.
I appreciate the opportunity to work with Starr and put together nice tours. And one other thing on this Kentucky too, as me and Sandy and the staff worked on this, you're getting not only all the major highlights pretty much of Kentucky, but you're getting also these little bonus things that people don't know about, like the Jack-o'-lantern spectacular, as well as the private band and the private barbecue dinner that you're getting. Like I said, so this is a very almost upscale experience to be able of a Kentucky tour to do. It's a first class tour. So, and like I said, I'm glad Starr allows me to be able to put some of these things in there to make these trips such high quality for you folks to be able to enjoy when you sign up for them.
It's fun to plan them. Like, I had this hat making idea and Mark was like, wait, what? So we came up with the make your own derby hat idea, and that's going to be super fun too. And it'll give you guys something to take home, and we'll have room on the bus for it. Don't worry. So we hope you will join us. I have some news for you I want to share with you. I told you at the beginning of the call, but this is a picture of Lindy Rivera, our new travel advisor working with Deb Ayers. And you can see her live and in person. Lindy, are you still on the call? Let's see. Yes, she's still on the call. Wave, Lindy.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
So when you call, you'll either be talking to Deb or Lindy. Sometimes I'll answer, sometimes Audrey will answer, sometimes Jen will answer. But Deb and Lindy are our primary travel advisors, and they know everything that you can think of regarding these trips. Lindy was a super quick learner, been here just a few weeks, but she's kind of like an expert already because, well, she had a good trainer. So thank you, Deb, for bringing Lindy up to speed. And this is all your favorite time of the call. We announce our winner for our $25 gift card. Oh, but I'm going to make you wait because I want to tell you our next Tour Tuesday is July 5th, Tuesday, July 5th. Don't forget, it's the day after July 4th. We'll be talking about Lake Erie and Myrtle Beach, two fabulous trips. So I hope to see you then. And I want to thank all of you for attending, especially my Starr staff, all the tour directors that are on the call. Thanks, Christine, for chiming in. It's so good to see such a great group of people, and you're also attentive and smiling. It really makes it easy for us to do what we do. So thank you for attending. And our $25 gift card this Tour Tuesday goes to, I hope I pronounce her last name right, Linda Pettiani. Linda, is Linda still on the call? I see her name. I don't see her face. So Linda, if you're there, you can chime in. But we will reach out to you. Oh, she is still there because I think she wrote us a note. So Deb will be reaching out to you later this week to see how you want to spend your $25. And again, it's so good to see you all. Thank you so much for your time. It makes it, again, easy for us because you're here and you're so attentive, and we're going to continue to plan lots and lots of fun trips for you. So we'll see you on July 5th, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night. That was great.
Good night. I hope you book tomorrow.
Lindy and I will be waiting.
Yes, they will. Bye-bye.
Bye.